Welcome to The Legacy Shift, the podcast for cycle breaking mothers and conscious leaders raising liberated, legacy building children. I'm your host, Patricia Abdallah, TEDx speaker, generational healing guide, and mother of four on a mission to end inherited pain and parent with power. Each week, we'll dismantle generational patterns, reclaim your truth, and anchor into a new legacy, one that begins with you. You won't find perfection here, just healing, truth-telling, and the sacred work of becoming the parent your children don't need to heal from. Let's break the cycle together. The unspoken grief between mother and daughter runs deep. Today, I'm going to unpack how the mother wound shows up in parenting and what it takes to heal without blame, shame, or silence. Let's jump into today's episode. We're going to start off by defining what is a mother wound and why is it becoming so apparent in today's world? Well, first of all, it develops across generations. So what we're seeing is that generation upon generation upon generation previous have not healed in their mothering journey. So a lot of these mother wounds are showing up in today's society because we're looking at these millennial moms are looking at the past and the patterns of the past, and they're saying no more. I do not choose to hand down what was handed to me. There's a movement of us that are deciding to heal instead of passing down pain and passing down silence and passing down fear and trauma and all of the things. So the mother wound essentially develops over generations. So today, sitting here, I can hold up to 3 generations past of trauma, maybe even more than that. But there is science that shows that we carry trauma and wounds and things that have occurred in past generations where they decided to kind of just shove it under the rug and not be concerned about it, pretend it wasn't there, never face them head on. And that, therefore, is then passed down through DNA generation to generation. I've said this before in other podcast episodes, and I'm going to say it again in this episode, but what we don't heal, we pass on. And the previous generations have not chosen to heal, so they've passed it on. And this is where the mother wound develops. So there's different ways that the mother wound can show up. A lot of it can show up, like I said, across generations. It can show up in different cultures, but another big way to see if you have a mother wound is through silence. There's silence about what has happened in the past, or there's silence about how someone was treated. There's silence about, we don't speak that way in this family, or we don't air our family's dirty laundry. There's silence in the mother wound. I know that I personally have had so many different conversations with moms, millennial moms in today's world, who are looking at their moms and they're saying, I love you, but I am not going to do the things that you did. I am choosing to heal so my children don't have to heal from their childhood. And it's so, so, so powerful. So, on that note, there is a really big difference between honoring your mother and healing what hurt you. So, to be clear, this is not about putting down previous generations or putting down our mothers or saying ill things about them. What this is acknowledging them for where they were at that point in their journey, and recognizing that maybe, hey, they didn't have the tools to heal that we have today. They didn't have social media. They didn't have the online tribe. They didn't have the resources to be able to heal what happened. Right? So they didn't have the understanding or the awareness around how these patterns pass down, right? They didn't understand that. So it's understanding and honoring your mother for where she was at that point in her journey, but also understanding that we can heal what hurt us. We can look at our childhood and say, you know what? This hurt me, and this hurt me. And there was silence around that. And I'm choosing not to be silent anymore. We're choosing to have a voice. We're choosing to stand up. We're choosing to heal so that when our children look back and they're our age, they say, you know what, Mom? Wow, thank you so much for healing that. I never had to hold that. It takes a really strong parent to look at patterns and beliefs and trauma and past ways of being and decide to heal. That is not easy work. Being a conscious parent is one of the most challenging things any parent can do. And we're sitting here today having conversations about it. And it's just so amazing to see so many women rise up and choose to heal that mother wound so that their daughters and their sons and their future grandchildren do not have to handle this. They don't have to hold on to this and they can truly be the way that they choose to be. It's so exciting. It's such an exciting time to be in this frame of mind, but it's also an exciting time to see, hey, how are the future generations going to show up differently? So amazing. So there's certain different ways that we can see the mother wound showing up in parenting. Perfectionism, people pleasing, and harsh self-criticism are really big ways that we can see that mother wound showing up. So let's dive into a little bit of those. If you see yourself trying to be perfect, when I first became a mom, I was always trying to be perfect. So first birthday party had to be to a T, right? I had to show everybody that I was fine and that I had everything planned and, I invited all the people and everything was color coordinated and all the things, right? That I was trying to be perfect in that moment or showing up in those early motherhood moments and yep, I don't need anybody's help. I'm great. I'm trying to be strong. I don't need that extra support. I don't need whatever because they weren't offering it, right? They weren't offering it to me. So I was trying to say, you know what? Well, I don't need that then. Reality is you do need a tribe. You do need support. And when you don't have that support around you, sometimes it's challenging, right? That's where the mother wound digs deep, right? People pleasing. If you're going out and you have to people please, I saw this recently with a friend of mine where she felt she had to people please in relation to her child. And I said to her, I'm like, well, why do you feel like you need to please these people? What are they to your child? Are they like actually supporting your child or are they only looking out for them, right? Are they looking out for themselves or are they looking out for the best of what's good for your child? And my intuitive feeling on that was, hey, no, they're actually out for their own selfish reasons and they're not actually looking at the child like that was what was important. So people pleasing comes up. And this is one of the ways that people pleasing comes up. Where you're like, well, I'll give it a go because XYZ person said this and I want to please that person. That's a mother wound because we, as daughters, grew up wanting to please our mother, right? For me personally, I grew up in a way of, hey, I have to make sure my mom is emotionally fine. So I need to cater to that. I need to change the way I show up. I was very loud as a child, and over time, I started getting quieter and quieter and quieter. I remember I used to be the first one to put my hand up, and I was the social person, and I wanted to be around people, and I wanted to listen and have conversation and talk about things. But quite often I was told, shh, you're too loud. Shh, you're too loud. Quiet down, quiet down, quiet down. Right? So over time, my internal dialogue became, hey, you're being too loud. You need to quiet your voice. Right? And in that moment, then I learned to quiet my own beliefs and my own, passions. And it wasn't until recently that I was able to break myself out of that and realize, hey, through healing the mother wound, which we'll talk about in a bit, but through healing that mother wound, I'm like, no, I deserve to be heard. I deserve to take up space. And this goes along with the perfectionism and people pleasing. As I've grown as a mother, there's no more perfectionism, right? If my child has two different colored socks and someone says, wow, he got two different colored socks, you know what? Yes, he has socks on his feet. Good, right? Thank you. Thank you. I'm a really great mom. I have socks on my kids' feet. Like, it doesn't matter if it's, mismatched colors or, do they have a jacket and it's 5 degrees out? No, they chose not to wear a jacket. Guess what? It's fine. It's they are showing up and I'm supporting my child in that. And that's okay. I don't need to be perfect, right? I don't need to say, oh, well, my kid has the hat and the mitts and the scarf and the blah, 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 blah. No, they've got their jacket on. They're good to go. Like, let's just get into the car sort of thing, right? So perfectionism, people pleasing, and harsh self-criticism. Harsh self-criticism can show up like, oh,
why don't I just do this? I'm such a bad mom sometimes. Like, this person does this and that person does this. And we see this a lot with social media because there's so many quote unquote perfect moms on social media. Like, we're only seeing 1% of their life, but they're showing perfectionism, right? They're showing like, hey, I live in such a beautiful house. It's always clean. It's always this and blah, 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 blah. Like, have you ever had someone come over? And I do this all the time. Have you ever had someone come over and had to feel like you have to apologize immediately because your space is a mess when it's not really a mess? You're just living in the space. I do this all the time, right? Oh, there's a couple toys on the floor. Oh, I'm so sorry, it's a mess. So sorry I have kids. Like, why are you apologizing for that? And that comes with harsh self-criticism because we're taught, hey, you have to be perfect. You have to, do these things. You have to have the perfect house. You have to be clean. All the kids, all the laundry needs to be done at the right time. All the different things. These are showing up as mother wounds in parenting. Sometimes we have emotional distance or overcompensating with our own kids as a result of the mother wound as well. Emotional distance can look like, well, I'm just going to take some time to myself, or, distancing yourself from your kids or distancing yourself from your husband. That is a mother wound. That's a mother wound result, right? This is where it can show up in parenting. I'm going to, oh, my kid did that. I need to emotionally distance myself from them. Or, oh, they did that. I'm just going to ignore that behavior. This is an old paradigm of parenting. It no longer works. We need to change what no longer works, right? It doesn't work. It didn't work for us. It didn't work for previous generations. They just never faced it. Well, our job now is in conscious parenting and changing cycles and breaking generational patterns is to choose differently. We always have an option to choose differently. The emotional distance just creates silence. It creates distance in relationships. It doesn't solve any issues. It actually makes your relationships with your children just even more distant as they grow, right? Another way that we can look at the mother wound in parenting is by overcompensating with our own kids. So either emotional distance or overcompensating, like, oh my gosh, okay, well, you need XYZ. I'm going to make sure you have 10 of them. Overcompensating in maybe things you give them, or signing them up for activities, or just things that maybe you were like, well, I didn't have this as a child, and I really want my children to have this, so I'm going to give it to them all. I'm going to give it all to them. That's overcompensating. That's actually from your mother wound. Once we heal the mother wound, then that kind of all dissipates and our nervous system becomes regulated, and those things don't actually really matter anymore. Another way of showing up for how the mother wound shows up in parenting is by repeating cycles unintentionally. All the time this happens still, right? This is you're healing a mother wound, you're healing cycles, you're breaking cycles, you're healing generational patterns. But too often, quite often, not too often, but quite often, we're going to fall back on old cycles and old patterns because it's what we learned, right? It's still in our body, it's still in our DNA, and we're still processing and healing. Healing isn't linear. Healing is always going to be, up and down, and there's going to be making mistakes. You're going to be making mistakes. It's inevitable. That's part of healing, right? So repeating cycles unintentionally, tone, patterns, your expectations, that's still part of having a mother wound and how that shows up in parenting. That was so much to take in, but we're going to move on to the cost of silence. So, mother wound, like I said a little bit, is emotional distance, right? Emotionally distancing yourself or silencing your own truth. So, what we're seeing is a lot of previous generations did not talk about it. They didn't talk about what they were facing. They didn't talk about their fears, their challenges, their patterns. They never chose to disrupt their beliefs. They didn't have conversations with other people about what was going on. If they faced something, they just kind of tucked it under the rug, was silent about it, and never talked about it again. Not talking about it doesn't make it go away. It will, like, it's still there. It's still there in your DNA. It's still there in your brain, and it's still there in your subconscious mind. What we're seeing in today's world is, hey, we're talking about, hey, well, my parent did this when I grew up. And why did they do that? Why did they do that? And why don't I agree with that anymore? And why am I changing patterns? And we're having conversations and we're opening up dialogue with other moms and other dads about, hey, what is actually, something that we can heal so that our kids, actually don't have this silent trauma that we all had to face. right? So not talking about it doesn't make it go away. You still internalize it and you just keep passing it down. Keep going. It's keep going. It keep going until someone decides to say, no more. I am done with this. I am not passing this stuff on anymore. I am done, done, done. I'm going to face this head on and I am going to heal. Unspoken grief leaks into your body language, triggers, and communication. So when you choose to heal and when you choose to heal that mother wound, that body language, that grief, those triggers, that communication, they become new. You create new legacy. You create new ways of communicating. You take away triggers and you replace them with calmness. You replace them with a regulated nervous system. Your body language, instead of being closed off, becomes open. Your kids all of a sudden want to come to you. I was having a conversation with a mom on Threads recently. If you're on Threads, check me out. I'd love to connect with you. I was having a conversation with a mom on Threads where she was saying, I'm so happy. My daughter, I was looking at the den and there was my daughter's toys everywhere. I love seeing her toys everywhere, she said, because I was not allowed to have toys anywhere except for my bedroom when I was growing up. And I had commented and had a conversation with her. I said, yes, it's amazing. We are a bunch of bedroom kids raising living room family. And what I mean by that is, hey, growing up, a lot of us were like, you have your space, you go to your room, and that's it. I don't want to see you outside of meal times. You go to your room and you're on your own. Now we're raising living room kids. They have access to the whole house, right? I see books on the ground. I see toys there. I see sitting beside me. I see a drawing, right? I see this cute little green bunny that my son was drawing. Like everything, right? We're family. We're living in a space together. It's not just this is my parents' house and I have a little room. No, this is our space together. And that is part of healing. Okay. This is the body language. We're opening up. We're allowing our space to come in. We're allowing our kids to be around us so that we can show them the love and the unconditional love and the affection and showing them that we are changing patterns and we are removing those triggers. And our communication is one of love and acceptance, not one of fear and silence. Okay. So how do we heal without the blame or shame? Because like I said, this isn't about putting down what our parents did, right? They did the best they could with what they had. It's about healing what hurt us. So how do we heal without that blame or shame? The main way of doing this is to reframe healing as responsibility and not fault finding. This is something I struggled with a lot, like when I first started my journey, I'm like, well, I'm doing this because XYZ happened to me. Well, now I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm doing this because I know that I deserve the healing, first of all. And second of all, I know that through my healing, each and every generation that comes after me is going to feel that. And that to me is impact. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking about this because it's not just me. If I can help support you in healing and you healing your mother moon and all the things, that also then impacts your legacy, right? And then anybody that I can talk to about this, about healing generational patterns, it's just so amazing because these patterns are changing and literally changing generation upon generation upon generation. So this movement that we've started isn't just for us, it's for every single person that comes after us, every single generation. Our entire lineages are changing. We're not going to see the same generation patterns that are seeing right now happen 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30, 40, 50 years from now. We're healing that. So healing without blame or shame means that, hey, we're finding responsibility. We're standing up and we're saying, we are responsible. We are healing this. It's not pointing fingers. It's I'm responsible for healing so that my future is one of love and not one of shame or silence, right? It's not fault finding though. I want to make that very key. I'm not sitting here and saying, hey, I'm doing this because my mom XYZ and my dad XYZ and my grandmother blah, 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 blah. I'm saying I'm responsible for healing. I'm responsible for my personal being. I tell this to my 5-year-old all the time, different contexts, but I'm like, you are responsible for your being. You're responsible for getting dressed. You're responsible for these things. That is because you are responsible for your body. You're responsible for your thoughts. Same concept, right? Same concept. I'm responsible for healing. It's not my job to point fingers, it's my job to heal. And if other people are having challenges accepting that you're healing and they think that you're pointing fingers, that's not your responsibility to take on. It's their thing. They can handle it. They're old enough to handle it. They can handle it. If your parent is looking at you and saying, well, you're just blaming me and you're doing all this stuff, and why are you healing? You have nothing to heal from. That's their own insecurities showing up on you. You don't need to take that on. You are looking healing in the face and you're saying, I'm healing for my future generations, for my lineage, and making sure that my children don't have to heal from the way that I parent. Okay? Responsibility, not fault finding. You also, in this moment, you can also have compassion for your mother wounds while still honoring your own. I just threw so much at you. And I want to give you some practical tools now because you're probably saying, hey, yes, Trish, I see what you're saying. I'm part of this movement. I want to make change, all these things. But how do I break the cycle? How do I actually heal my mother wound? How do I actually start this generational lineage and legacy that I always wanted to create? I'm going to give you some practical tools now for breaking that cycle. I want you to either pause this podcast or do it after, but I'm going to give you a journal prompt. What did I need but not receive as a child? What did I need but not receive as a child? That's your journal prompt. And sit down with this for a little bit of time. Sit down with this, put some meditation music in or some healing binaural beats in, and really sit with the question, what did I need but not receive as a child? Tell you right now, I did this and I needed more hugs. I needed more affection. I needed to know that I was loved in every component of my life. We could also do some nervous system resets. Breathe, pause before reaction. Okay. Let's reset our nervous system. Take a big deep breath, breathe it in, pause, let it out, and then we can have conversation. Okay. You want to be really even keel with that nervous system as we go into a tool for breaking the cycle of the mother wound. Breathing is a really great way to break up any sort of hesitation with healing, or if you're triggered, it's a really great way to stop that trigger. Take a big deep breath in, hold, out. And you can do that several times if you are still finding yourself triggered until you relax, and then you can address the issue at hand. Another practical tool for breaking the cycle is small but intentional acts of repair with your children. Because we're not perfect and because we have past patterns and beliefs, we still are finding that we need to be intentional with the repair. Just yesterday, I still flew off the handle at my 10-year-old. And afterward, I said, hun, like, I'm sorry. I know I reacted very irresponsible in that. Those feelings were mine, and I'm sorry, That's an intentional act of repair. And we had conversation about it. My goal as a mother is to make sure that my children feel safe in their approach to me. I want them to know all the time how much I love them, regardless of what they do, regardless if they come at me with anything. It's so amazing to see. And so those small intentional acts of repair with your children, they know that you make mistakes, and then they know that they can make mistakes and nothing's going to make you not love them, right? So, healing the mother wound is an act of love for future generations. Not easy. Not everyone's going to do it. But we are in a movement right now where this is where my podcast name comes in. We are in the legacy shift era where we can legitimately change legacy, make change beliefs, and create a beautiful world for those who come after us. Freeing yourself frees your children from any future things that you have to heal, right? It frees your children to live a life where they don't have to have emotional baggage. They don't have to feel all these things. They can truly show up as the beautiful souls they came down to earth to be. That is powerful. Our children are going to be the change, the result of the change that we are experiencing right now. In this legacy shift, you are reclaiming your voice, you're reclaiming your truth, and you're reclaiming your power as a mother. This is why it's so important to heal the mother wound, show up with passion, love, and look at yourself saying, I am making change. Reclaim your voice, reclaim your truth, and your power as a mother. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I will see you next week.
If this episode spoke to your soul, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more cycle breakers like you find this movement. And if you're ready to go deeper, come join us inside the Legacy Circle, our private WhatsApp community for conscious parents and cycle breakers who are rewriting family legacies together. You'll get voice notes, behind-the-scene insights, and heart-led conversations that don't make it to the podcast. The link to join is in the show notes. Until next time, keep healing, keep leading, and keep rewriting the story for generations to come.